In these scrolls, we find biblical manuscripts, copies of the Bible that are 1,000 years older than any previously known copy of the Bible, as well as a treasure trove of documents that we had never seen before.
Now, this is quite a discovery. Fragments of a biblical scroll, along with other relics, have been found in desert caves in Israel.
Turkish authorities have confirmed that an ancient Bible thought to be 1,500 years old.
In the depths of history, a mysterious text vanished from sight, hidden away for centuries. That is, until the 1700s, when the ancient Book of Enoch was rediscovered in the Ethiopian region of Abyssinia. This long-forgotten manuscript sent shockwaves through the early Christian church, leaving everyone who encountered it trembling in fear, priests included. The secret knowledge within its pages sparked expeditions that drove many to madness, while those who managed to keep their sanity were never the same again. So, what exactly is in this enigmatic book? How does Joe Rogan explain its mind-bending content? And just how did it have the power to unravel the minds of those who sought it out? Strap in, because we're diving deep into the mysteries of the Book of Enoch. We are Jesus' eternal aura. In today's video, you will have appropriate answers to all the questions above. Before you know what happened, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click the bell icon for all the latest updates.
The ancient Book of Enoch is a book that was quite popular during the first 700 years of church history, but then faded from sight. Nobody republished it. It disappeared until the Book of Enoch was rediscovered in the Ethiopian region of Abyssinia in the 1700s.
The Book of Enoch is a mysterious and ancient text that has captivated scholars and mystics alike for centuries. Discovered in 1773 by the Scottish explorer James Bruce in Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia, the book is also known as the Ethiopic Book of Enoch. It is a pseudepigraphical work, meaning it is falsely attributed to a notable figure, in this case, Enoch, the son of Jared. The true author wrote the book under Enoch's name to give it an authority it might not have otherwise possessed. The Book of Enoch has garnered attention not only for its esoteric content, but also for its complicated history. Joe Rogan, a well-known media personality, has expressed a particular interest in this ancient text, describing it as containing essential truths that have been suppressed by politics and the human struggle for power. Rogan's discussions with various scientists on his podcast have further fueled the intrigue surrounding the book. The Book of Enoch is part of a larger body of pseudepigraphical literature, which includes other works such as the Life of Adam and Eve, the Treatise of Shem, and the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs. These texts provide significant evidence that Judaism during the Second Temple period in Palestine was not monolithic, but rather a diverse collection of beliefs and practices. The Book of Enoch, in particular, is notable for its apocalyptic themes, which would later influence early Christian thought. The original manuscript of the Book of Enoch disappeared at the end of the 4th century, but portions of it have been found in Greek, Latin, Syriac, and Aramaic since the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The question of who found the book and why it was hidden has intrigued historians and theologians alike. James Bruce's discovery of the Book of Enoch was both a remarkable and controversial event. Bruce, a Scottish scholar and explorer, was in search of ancient relics and knowledge when he stumbled upon the text. He had hoped to find a book that would preserve the secrets of ancient rites, but instead, he uncovered what some believe to be an ancient depiction of the devil's origins. The Book of Enoch was denounced by early church fathers and was preserved only in fragments within the ancient Ethiopian language of Ge'ez. This text offers a narrative that no establishment of the time wished to see credited. Rooted in esoteric Jewish thought, the Book of Enoch suggests that the figure of the devil may have once been humanity's ally and mentor. This idea was radical and controversial, especially in a time when Britain was engaged in territorial conflicts and religious tensions were high. Bruce's journey took him through various parts of the ancient world, including Alexandria, Thebes, and Cairo, before he arrived in the former Ethiopian capital of Gondar in 1770. While ostensibly in search of the Blue Nile, Bruce was also on a quest to find the Book of Enoch. His interest in the ancient Ethiopian language and his willingness to travel to a region known for its hostility towards outsiders have led some to speculate that Bruce was motivated by more than just scientific curiosity. Bruce was a member of the Canongate Kill-winning Masonic Lodge, and some believe that his search for the Book of Enoch was influenced by Masonic beliefs. Freemasons equate Enoch with the Egyptian deity Thoth, who is considered the founder of written language. Bruce's discovery of the Book of Enoch, therefore, could have been seen as a validation of Masonic beliefs that they were the true inheritors of ancient wisdom. However, what Bruce found in the Book of Enoch was far more perplexing. The text challenges the conventional understanding of the devil as the antagonist in the story of humanity's fall. Instead, it suggests that the source of wisdom may have originated from beings whom the Hebrew deity sought to destroy during the flood. This narrative, which implies that creativity and knowledge were not gifts from God, but rather from rebellious angels, was considered heretical by both religious and social authorities at the time. As a result, the Book of Enoch never found a place in canonized Christianity and remained unpublished during Bruce's lifetime. To have made such a story public would have caused massive unrest, as it contradicted the established religious and cultural beliefs of the time. Despite its rich imagery and profound implications, the Book of Enoch continues to be a footnote in history, often overshadowed by other religious texts. The story of the Book of Enoch does not end with Bruce's discovery. In 1946-1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in a cave near the ancient settlement of Qumran, located on the northwest coast of the Dead Sea, in what is now known as the West Bank. The scrolls were discovered by a group of Bedouin boys tending to their sheep. One of the boys threw a rock into a cliff opening, only to hear the sound of shattering pottery. Upon investigating, they found several large clay jars, 7 of which contained leather and papyrus scrolls. These scrolls, which included fragments of the Book of Enoch, were repurchased by antiquities dealers and scholars. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls has provided invaluable insights into the religious beliefs and practices of the time, further solidifying the significance of the Book of Enoch in the study of ancient texts and early Judaism. The Book of Enoch is a fascinating and complex text that continues to intrigue scholars, theologians, and mystics alike. Its discovery by James Bruce in Ethiopia, its controversial content, and its eventual rediscovery among the Dead Sea Scrolls all contribute to its enduring mystique. While the Book of Enoch may remain on the fringes of mainstream religious thought, its influence and significance cannot be denied. The Book of Enoch is an ancient text, believed to be around 2,000 years old, and consists of various fragments of scrolls that were discovered alongside other significant manuscripts. Despite its age and historical significance, many clerical scholars have dismissed the book, claiming it contains revelations that were not divinely inspired by God. The Book of Enoch was excluded from the Bible due to its controversial content, which includes a list of fallen angels, violent giants, strange cosmological facts, and mystical revelations. These elements have led to ongoing debates among scholars, with some believing that the stories in Enoch reflect Babylonian mythology. The Book of Enoch is attributed to Enoch, a figure mentioned in the Bible as the 7th patriarch in the line of Adam before the Great Flood. Enoch is often portrayed as a man who ascended to heaven by God's will to learn the secrets of the end of time. However, others view him as a product of ancient fan fiction, a character inserted into stories for dramatic effect. The book begins with an ominous description of the end times, detailing Earth's destruction and the final judgment of sinful men. This apocalyptic vision is one of the reasons the book was not included in the canonical Bible. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Book of Enoch is the introduction of mysterious creatures known as the Watchers. These 200 angels were initially tasked with observing human history, but they eventually became enamored with human women and descended to earth to take them as wives. This union between angels and humans resulted in the birth of giants known as Nephilim, who were depicted as monstrous beings that devoured everything in their path, including people. The story of the Watchers and the Nephilim has been compared to modern fantasy tales like The Lord of the Rings, due to its epic scale and fantastical elements. The giants' rampage across the land caused widespread destruction, leading the Watchers to teach their human wives charms, spells, and herbology. This depiction continues the tradition of portraying women as deceivers, a theme that can be traced back to the stories of Eve and Lilith in the Bible. Meanwhile, the Watchers also shared knowledge of metallurgy with men, leading to the creation of weapons and armor, and eventually causing wars among humans. The chaos caused by the Watchers and their offspring led them to turn on one another, blaming a particular Watcher named Azazel, who is often depicted with goat-like features and is believed to be the origin of the term scapegoat. As the situation on Earth spiraled out of control, God decided to intervene by wiping the slate clean. Noah, who is given a divine warning about the imminent flood, begins constructing the ark. The narrative then takes a sudden turn, with Enoch appearing in heaven without much explanation. God charges Enoch with delivering judgment upon the Watchers, condemning them to spend eternity as demons. This part of the story also introduces the concept of purgatory, where the souls of all people are collected until Judgment Day. In the following passages, Enoch is taken on a journey through time and space, where God reveals to him the visions of the end of time. Many of these visions are reminiscent of the imagery found in the books of Daniel and Revelation, although they appear much earlier in the biblical timeline. During this journey, God and Enoch begin calling out individuals by name, condemning them to a fate without mercy. Enoch is empowered by God and transformed into the leader of the archangels named Metatron. The Book of Enoch is divided into several sections, with the first and most famous being the Book of the Watchers. This section focuses on the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and the events that led to the Great Flood. The Watchers, described as both the sons of God and the sons of heaven, were angelic beings who were initially assigned to observe human development without interfering. However, their desire for human women led them to break this rule, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch also delves into the nature of the Nephilim. These giants are seen as a perverted mix of angels and humans, and their existence is used to explain the presence of other giants in the Bible, such as Goliath. The Nephilim are portrayed as violent and destructive, a direct consequence of the Watchers' rebellion against God. However, there is ongoing debate about the true nature of the Nephilim. Some believe they were supernatural beings, while others argue that they were simply humans who had strayed from the path of righteousness. In addition to the Book of the Watchers, the Book of Enoch contains other sections, including the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, the Dream Visions, and the Epistles of Enoch. These sections cover a wide range of topics, from celestial observations to prophetic visions. The book's detailed descriptions of the cosmos and its emphasis on the moral failings of both angels and humans have fascinated scholars and theologians for centuries. One of the most significant themes in the Book of Enoch is the idea of divine punishment. The Watchers, who were once trusted to observe humanity, are eventually condemned for their actions, serving as a warning to others who might consider defying God's will. This theme of judgment and retribution is a central element of the book and is echoed in other apocalyptic literature. Despite its exclusion from the Bible, the Book of Enoch remains an influential text, offering insights into the beliefs and myths of ancient cultures. Its stories of fallen angels, giants, and cosmic battles continue to captivate readers and inspire debates about the nature of good and evil, the role of divine beings, and the mysteries of the universe. While it may never be universally accepted as part of the biblical canon, the Book of Enoch endures as a powerful and thought-provoking work that challenges our understanding of the ancient world and its spiritual traditions. The story described in the text revolves around the mythological tale of the Watchers, a group of angels mentioned in the Book of Enoch, and their interactions with humans, leading to significant consequences for mankind. These angels, referred to as the sons of God, were originally tasked with observing humanity, but ultimately chose to interfere directly in human affairs, which led to catastrophic outcomes. The narrative begins by detailing how the Watchers, captivated by the beauty of mortal women, decided to descend to Earth and take these women as their wives. This decision was not without hesitation. The leader of the Watchers, Samyaza, sometimes spelled Samjaza, warned the others that their actions would bring severe punishment from God. Despite his caution, the other Watchers persuaded him to proceed, collectively agreeing to share the consequences of their transgression. A total of 200 Watchers descended to Earth, and their union with human women resulted in the birth of hybrid beings known as the Nephilim. The Nephilim are described in the Bible, particularly in Genesis 6:1-4, as giants who were heroes of old and men of renown. The Book of Enoch goes further, depicting these beings as destructive forces on Earth. The Nephilim, or giants, began to consume everything that humanity had built, eventually turning their violence on humans and even on each other. The tale continues by introducing Azazel, a significant figure among the Watchers. Azazel is credited with teaching mankind the arts of warfare, the use of weapons such as swords and knives, and the manipulation of the natural world through paints, stones, and dyes. His teachings, along with those of the other Watchers who introduced sorcery, incantations, and the knowledge of heavenly secrets, led to widespread corruption among humans. The actions of the Watchers, particularly Azazel, are said to have increased impiety and multiplied fornication, corrupting mankind in numerous ways. As humanity suffered under the influence of the Watchers and their offspring, the cries of the people reached the heavens. In response, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel looked down from heaven and saw the chaos unfolding on earth. They brought their concerns before God, placing much of the blame on Azazel and Samyaza. The archangels pointed out that Azazel had taught humanity all manner of iniquity and disclosed forbidden knowledge, while Samyaza had led the Watchers in their sinful actions. God, upon hearing this, decided to take action to restore order on earth. He instructed Uriel to warn Noah, the son of Lamech, about the impending destruction of the earth through a great flood. Uriel was to explain to Noah how to survive the flood and ensure the continuation of his lineage. Meanwhile, God commanded Raphael to bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness by opening the desert of Dudiel, a region in the underworld. The text also touches on the Book of Parables, another section of the Book of Enoch. The Book of Parables is unique in that no fragments of it have been found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. It has traditionally been preserved by the Beta Israel community, who likely carried it from Egypt to Cush and later to the Ethiopian highlands. The origin of the Book of Parables is debated, with some scholars suggesting it is a Christian-era text written between 50 and 200 AD. However, the Beta Israel community's use of the book predates this period, and it likely formed part of their holy texts before 200 BC. The debate over the Book of Parables' origin stems from various pieces of evidence, much of which has been interpreted through a Christian lens by later translators. For instance, the phrase "Son of Man" which appears frequently in the Book of Parables, is often seen as a reference to Christian terminology. However, this interpretation is contested, with arguments that the text should not be viewed solely through a Christian perspective, as it existed in a different cultural and religious context. The story of the Watchers, a group of angels also referred to as the Sons of God, is an intriguing narrative that unfolds in the Book of Enoch. These angels, tasked with observing humanity, became enamored with the beauty of human women. This fascination led them to make a fateful decision. They chose to descend to earth and take these women as their wives, impregnating them and creating a race of beings that were neither fully angelic nor fully human. This act of defiance marked a significant departure from their original purpose, which was merely to watch over humanity without direct interference. The leader of the Watchers, known as Samyaza or Samjaza, initially expressed hesitation. He warned the other angels that their actions would lead to severe consequences, and that he, as their leader, would bear the brunt of the punishment from God. However, the other Watchers, emboldened by their shared desire, convinced him that they would all face the repercussions together. This pact among the Watchers resulted in their collective descent to earth, where they took human wives and fathered children. These children, known as the Nephilim, were not ordinary beings. Described in various texts as giants, they were a hybrid of human and angelic nature. The Nephilim are mentioned in the Bible, specifically in Genesis 6:1-4, where they are referred to as heroes of old, men of renown. There is ongoing debate among scholars and theologians about the exact nature of the Nephilim, but the general consensus is that they were formidable beings who had a significant impact on the world. As the Nephilim grew in number, their presence on earth led to chaos and destruction. They consumed the resources of humanity and eventually turned on each other, leading to widespread violence and bloodshed. The Watchers, in their time on earth, also imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity. According to the Book of Enoch, these angels taught humans various forms of sorcery, incantations, and the use of plants and roots for magical purposes. This dissemination of knowledge, which was not meant for human understanding, further corrupted humanity. One of the most notable Watchers, Azazel, is specifically mentioned for his role in teaching humanity the art of warfare. He introduced the use of swords, knives, and other weapons, which led to an increase in violence and bloodshed. Azazel also taught humans about the use of cosmetics and dyes, allowing them to alter their appearance and manipulate their surroundings. The actions of Azazel and the other Watchers led to a rapid decline in morality and a significant increase in sin and corruption among humans. As the situation on Earth deteriorated, the cries of humanity reached the heavens. In response, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel observed the chaos and decided to take action. They approached God and reported the transgressions of the Watchers, particularly focusing on the actions of Azazel and Samyaza. They informed God of how Azazel had taught humanity iniquity and revealed secret knowledge that was meant to remain hidden. They also highlighted the actions of Samyaza, who had led the Watchers in their defiance of God's will. In response to the archangel's plea, God decided to cleanse the earth of the corruption that had been sown by the Watchers and their offspring. He instructed the archangel Uriel to warn Noah, the son of Lamech, of the impending flood that would destroy all life on earth. Noah was told to prepare an ark to save his family and the animals, ensuring the survival of life on earth after the flood. God then commanded the archangel Raphael to bind Azazel and cast him into the darkness. Azazel was to be imprisoned in a desert region known as Dudael, where he would remain until the final judgment. This act of binding Azazel was intended to prevent further corruption and to begin the process of restoring order to the world. The Book of Enoch, particularly the section known as the Book of Parables, offers a detailed account of these events. The Book of Parables is unique in that it does not have any fragments documented within the Dead Sea Scrolls, unlike other parts of the Book of Enoch. This has led to debates among scholars regarding its origins and authenticity. The text has been traditionally used by the Beta Israel community, a group of Ethiopian Jews who likely carried it south from Egypt to Cush and later to the Ethiopian highlands. The origin of the Book of Parables is widely debated, with some scholars suggesting that it was written during the Christian era, between 50 and 200 AD. However, this assumption is based on interpretations that apply Christian terminology to the text, which is not inherently Christian. For example, the phrase "Son of Man" is often seen as a reference to Jesus Christ in Christian texts, but in the Book of Parables, it is used in a different context. Despite these debates, the Book of Parables remains an important part of the broader Enochic literature, providing a vivid account of the Watchers, their fall from grace, and the subsequent events that shaped the early history of humanity. The story of the Watchers serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of defying divine order and the consequences of imparting forbidden knowledge to those who are not meant to possess it. The Book of Enoch, also known as First Enoch, is a significant ancient text often discussed in the context of biblical studies and apocryphal literature. This book is traditionally divided into several sections, each offering unique perspectives on divine judgment, cosmic secrets, and prophetic visions. Among the most debated elements of Enoch's writings is the identification and significance of the Son of Man figure. Some interpretations suggest that this figure is not Jesus Christ, but rather Seth, the patriarch who survived Noah's flood. In the Book of Parables, a central section of 1 Enoch, the Son of Man is interpreted by some scholars as Seth rather than a messianic figure. The term Ben Adam, Son of Man, can be translated as Son of Adam, a designation fitting for Seth, who is introduced as the progenitor of all surviving humanity after the flood. This section, comprising chapters 37 to 71, is characterized by oracular material rather than the parables of Jesus. The text focuses on themes of judgment, the fate of the righteous, and the ultimate triumph of divine justice. Chapter 38 of the Book of Parables introduces the expectation of a righteous community that will witness the judgment of the sinners. This righteous figure will lead the judgment, similar to the betrayal theme found in Mark 14:21, which suggests that it would have been better for such betrayers never to have been born. This judgment scenario aligns with later literature, such as the Book of Ezra, which describes the torment faced by those who have denied divine authority. Chapters 39 to 41 describe Enoch's vision of the heavenly realms and the angelic beings who inhabit them. Enoch is depicted as being swept into heaven, where he encounters the Lord of spirits and innumerable angels. Notably, 4 prominent angels are described: Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel, each responsible for different aspects of divine intervention and cosmic order. Enoch's visions also include detailed knowledge of cosmic phenomena, including the sun and moon, which are critical to understanding the heavenly calendar. The astronomical book within 1 Enoch, spanning chapters 72 to 82, focuses on celestial bodies and their influence on timekeeping. This section is highly esoteric, dealing with calculations of the solar year and the lengths of months, reflecting a 364-day calendar system as opposed to the 360-day calendar prevalent among other groups like the Qumran community. This calendrical debate was crucial for religious observances, including the accurate timing of Passover. The discrepancy between the 364-day and 360-day calendars highlights the significance of correct observance for the community's religious practices. The Book of Dreams and Visions, another segment of Worse Enoch, retells world history through symbolic visions involving sheep representing various nations and peoples. This allegorical narrative includes the depiction of Israelite sheep contending with various predatory animals representing different empires. This section, along with fragments from the Book of Noah, suggests a connection to earlier traditions and narratives, including descriptions of Noah's birth and the flood, aligning with the larger cosmic and prophetic themes of the text. The final chapters, 106 and 107, recount the birth of Noah with extraordinary physical characteristics and his divine purpose. These narratives likely stem from a lost apocalypse focused on Noah, illustrating his role as the remnant for Lamech and the judgment that would follow. Noah's unusual appearance and his early speech are seen as signs of his significant role in divine plans. In contemporary discussions, such as those mentioned by Katie Williams and Joe Rogan, the exclusion of the Book of Enoch from the canonical Bible is sometimes interpreted through various lenses. Williams expressed frustration over the lack of representation of black figures in the Bible and suggested that the omission of Enoch was part of a broader agenda by early church authorities. Rogan's theory posits that the only non-black characters in the Bible were the Romans, making Noah's albino characteristics in the Book of Enoch a point of significance in discussions about racial representation in biblical texts. The Book of Enoch offers a rich tapestry of apocalyptic visions, celestial knowledge, and prophetic insights. Its content reflects a complex interplay between cosmic order, divine justice, and esoteric knowledge, revealing the intricate concerns of its ancient authors and their communities. The debates surrounding the text's interpretation, its historical significance, and its exclusion from the Bible continue to fuel scholarly and theological discussions.
First edition King James Bible that was printed in 1611. So this is over 4 centuries old.
This Bible is like 135 years old.
Police in Turkey have recovered a Bible thought to be 1,000 years old.
Now, this is quite a discovery. Fragments of a biblical scroll.
Turkish authorities have confirmed that an ancient Bible thought to be 1,500 years old.
Have you ever wondered if the stories we've been told about Jesus and the Bible are the full truth? Some claim the Vatican has edited the Bible beyond recognition, with the real Jesus being far different from what we've been taught. Even more shocking, they say it wasn't Jesus, but Judas, who was crucified. With the Christian Church frequently involved in controversies, it's time to dig deeper into the sacred texts and uncover what secrets the Vatican might be hiding. In this video, we'll explore the sensational claims and hidden facts behind one of history's most guarded institutions. We are Jesus' eternal aura. In today's video, you will have appropriate answers to all the questions above. Before you know what happened, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click the bell icon for all the latest updates.
In these scrolls, we find biblical manuscripts, copies of the Bible that are 1,000 years older than any previously known copy of the Bible, as well as a treasure trove of documents that we had never seen before.
In the year 2000, a surprising discovery took place in Cyprus. A routine police raid targeting suspected smugglers led to the seizure of an ancient manuscript, later revealed to be over 1,500 years old. Legal battles surrounding the artifact persisted for over a decade, and it wasn't until 2012 that the manuscript was finally handed over to the Ankara Ethnography Museum in Turkey for further examination. The content of the manuscript was unlike anything scholars had seen before, and it raised several significant questions about early Christian history. The manuscript, attributed to Apostle Barnabas, immediately raised suspicions. According to the Bible, there was no mention of Barnabas among Jesus' 12 disciples, known as the Apostles. Yet, this manuscript suggested that there were 70 apostles, not 12, and Barnabas claimed to be their primary leader. This was the first of many controversial claims within the text. Barnabas's depiction of Apostle Paul was especially contentious. The Pauline epistles, authored by Paul, form a fundamental part of Christian theology today. However, in Barnabas's gospel, Paul is portrayed as a misguided zealot who who mistakenly believed that Jesus was the Son of God. Barnabas, on the other hand, insisted that God was one, rejecting the idea of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This concept, Barnabas argued, was inconsistent with early Christian beliefs. It is worth noting that the word Trinity is not found in the Bible. The term was introduced at the First Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, long after the time of Christ. Barnabas did not stop at refuting Paul's views on the Trinity. In chapter 39 of the manuscript, he stated that Jesus was not the divine Son of God, but rather a mortal man who experienced divine illumination. He also claimed that the true Messiah had yet to arrive, predicting that the Messiah would come 500 years after Jesus. Many Muslim scholars see this as a reference to the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, who was born approximately 5 centuries after Jesus. Barnabas's gospel also offered a unique take on paradise. He envisioned it as a multi-tiered place with 9 distinct levels, much like the 9 levels of hell in other religious traditions. According to Barnabas, the most righteous individuals would occupy the highest levels, while those closer to the bottom would find their experience not much different from life on earth. This vision placed a higher burden on Christians to live exemplary lives if they wanted to attain the highest level of paradise. Perhaps the most dramatic claim in Barnabas's gospel came in the final chapters, where he provided a version of events surrounding Jesus' crucifixion that diverged sharply from the New Testament account. Barnabas wrote that during the Last Supper, Jesus knew Judas would betray him, but he was not captured by the Roman soldiers. Instead, Barnabas claimed that angels rescued Jesus by taking him out of a window, and that God transformed Judas's face to resemble Jesus's. As a result, it was Judas, not Jesus, who was crucified. According to Barnabas, Jesus entrusted him with the task of recording the truth of what really happened that night. The claims in Barnabas's gospel raised questions about its authenticity. Some view it as an attempt to discredit Paul, possibly motivated by personal grievances between the two men. Barnabas's vigorous denial of Paul's teachings suggests there may have been a deep-seated conflict between the two early Christian figures. Despite these doubts, the gospel has attracted attention because of the Vatican's unusual response to its discovery. During the legal proceedings over the manuscript, representatives from the Church repeatedly intervened, attempting to prevent experts from conducting a thorough analysis of the text. Instead, they sought to have the manuscript quickly transferred to the museum. This behavior has led some to speculate that the Church might be concerned about the potential impact of the manuscript's contents on established Christian beliefs. Over the centuries, the Vatican has been accused of hiding or suppressing certain Gospels and historical accounts that challenge the official narrative of Christian history. One prominent example comes from the 4th century, when a church historian, Socrates of Constantinople, claimed that a church was built at the site of Christ's crucifixion. According to the historian, Flavia Julia Helena Augusta, the mother of Emperor Constantine, discovered 3 crosses beneath the church. These crosses were believed to be the very ones used at Jesus' crucifixion. Pieces of the crosses were distributed among European churches as relics. However, in the 16th century, French theologian John Calvin pointed out that if all the pieces of the true cross were gathered together, they would form enough wood to build an entirely new church. This observation cast doubt on the authenticity of the relics, but the Vatican ignored such criticisms, just as it has often dismissed alternative gospels that challenge its teachings. The suppression of certain religious texts is not a new phenomenon. In 1684, the Vatican removed 14 books from the Bible, which had previously been considered sacred. This was not an isolated event. Similar actions took place in the early centuries of the Church. Texts deemed inappropriate or controversial were labeled as apocrypha, a term derived from the Greek word meaning hidden. One such apocryphal text is the Gospel of Thomas, discovered in 1945 near Nag Hammadi, Egypt. The Gospel, buried in the ruins of an ancient library, was believed to have been hidden after its legitimacy was questioned by Bishop Athanasius. The Gospel of Thomas presented a radically different image of Jesus compared to the New Testament. In this text, Jesus was described as quick-tempered, egotistical, and even declaring himself a god as an infant. These claims were so controversial that the text was buried for centuries, only to be rediscovered in the 20th century. The existence of these alternative gospels raises important questions about the formation of Christian doctrine. Throughout history, the Vatican and other religious authorities have curated which texts would become part of the official canon and which would be suppressed. The discovery of texts like the Gospel of Barnabas and the Gospel of Thomas suggests that early Christian beliefs may have been far more diverse than we previously thought, and that some perspectives were deliberately silenced to shape the direction of the faith. As scholars continue to study these ancient texts, they may shed new light on the development of Christian theology and the many interpretations of Jesus' life and teachings that existed in the early centuries of the Church.
This is really a magical incantation to wipe the board clean of whatever you might have done on earth.
The Gospels that the Church has approved provide very little information about the childhood and youth of Jesus Christ. This gap in detail has led some to speculate that these stories may have been deliberately omitted by the Vatican because they were too controversial or out of line with accepted doctrine. However, this lack of biographical information is not only a feature of the canonical Gospels, but also of the Gospel of Thomas, an early Christian text classified as apocryphal. The Gospel of Thomas doesn't focus much on the details of Christ's life, but rather on his sayings, encouraging the reader to search for hidden meanings. Thomas, the author of this Gospel, believed that understanding these hidden meanings was crucial for attaining salvation. According to him, it was not good deeds that would grant a person access to heaven, but rather the ability to decipher the deeper messages within Christ's words. This belief placed significant spiritual emphasis on esoteric knowledge, which set Thomas's teachings apart from more conventional Christian views. This focus on interpretation, according to Thomas, meant that most believers would not attain divine grace because they would fail to uncover the true meaning of Christ's teachings. Given its unconventional approach to salvation, it's not surprising that the Church labeled the Gospel of Thomas as apocryphal. After all, its teachings seemed unlikely to attract new followers, particularly because of the complexity of its message. The Gospel contains 114 sayings attributed to Jesus, 40 of which cannot be found in any other Holy Scripture. Some of these sayings, particularly those about women, are controversial. For instance, in one passage, Jesus is said to have claimed that he would make Mary Magdalene male so that she could enter the kingdom of heaven. This reflects a broader view, ascribed to Thomas, that women could not achieve immortality unless they were transformed into men. Men do not receive much better treatment in the Gospel of Thomas. In one passage, Jesus reportedly says that uncircumcised men are also barred from heaven. This leads to a somewhat puzzling conclusion. Only circumcised men who are able to understand the hidden messages within Jesus' teachings are worthy of entering paradise. This portrayal of Jesus, combined with the apparent megalomania displayed in some of the Gospel's passages, suggests that Thomas had a very particular and controversial interpretation of Christianity. One of the reasons for the controversy surrounding the Gospel of Thomas might be Thomas's claim that he was the twin brother of Jesus, born to a different woman. Such a claim would have been problematic for the early church, which may explain why this gospel was eventually excluded from the Bible. However, it's interesting to consider why it was included in Christian teachings in the first place. Did some of Thomas's revelations initially seem acceptable to the church? Perhaps they did not initially bother religious authorities, but at some point they began to see these teachings as threatening or misleading. Throughout history, religious authorities have occasionally removed books from the Bible when they believed they posed a threat to the unity or orthodoxy of the faith. This raises an important question. How can we trust the individuals who shaped religious doctrine when their decisions have changed over time? This is especially relevant when considering some of the strange or controversial events that have taken place within the Church itself. For example, one of the most shocking scandals in church history occurred in 858 when Pope John VII, who had reigned for 2 years, suddenly became ill during a procession near the Lateran Basilica in Vatican City. As his inner circle rushed to help him, it quickly became apparent that John was experiencing a very specific type of illness. He was going into labor. The Pope, who was actually a woman named Joan, had disguised herself as a man to pursue an education and rise through the ranks of the church. Her ruse was successful for several years until she gave birth on the streets of Rome. The crowd, realizing they had been deceived, stoned Joan to death on the spot. Today, the church claims that this story is a fabrication and that Pope Joan never existed. However, the question remains, why should we take the Vatican's denials at face value, particularly when historical evidence sometimes contradicts official church narratives? The removal of certain books from the Bible can be traced to the fact that these texts sometimes contradict not only Christian dogma, but also common sense and historical fact. A prime example is the Gospel of Barnabas, which contains numerous errors in both geography and history. In one passage, Barnabas claims that Pontius Pilate was already the prefect of Judea when Christ was born. Historical records, however, show that Pilate was not appointed to that position until Jesus was 26 years old. The geographic inaccuracies in Barnabas's gospel are equally glaring. In chapters 20 and 21, Barnabas describes Jesus and his disciples traveling to Nazareth, which he claims is near the Sea of Galilee. In reality, Nazareth is located 25 kilometers from the sea, a 5-hour walk at best. Barnabas also places the city of Tyre near the Jordan River, despite the fact that the two locations are actually 48 kilometers apart. Another mistake occurs in chapter 63, where Barnabas claims that Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, is near the Mediterranean Sea. In fact, Nineveh was located in modern-day Iraq, 645 kilometers away from the sea. These errors, though significant, are not the only problems with the Gospel of Barnabas. The text also contains anachronisms. For example, in chapter 152, Barnabas mentions that wine was stored in large wooden barrels, but at the time, people still used clay jars to store alcohol. Furthermore, some scholars have noted that Barnabas's gospel bears striking similarities to medieval texts, which raises the possibility that the gospel was not written during the time of Christ, but was instead a much later creation. Despite these discrepancies, some believers continue to question whether certain apocryphal texts could contain elements of truth. After all, the process of deciding which books would be included in the Bible was not a straightforward one. Over the centuries, theologians and church leaders debated which texts were divinely inspired and which were not, often removing books from the canon as theological perspectives shifted. This selective process highlights the complexity of religious tradition and raises questions about how much of what we accept today is based on historical fact versus theological interpretation. The apocryphal Gospels, such as those of Thomas and Barnabas, offer alternative perspectives on early Christian teachings. While these texts have been dismissed by the Church as heretical or inaccurate, their existence reminds us that the formation of religious doctrine has been a fluid process, shaped by historical, theological, and even political considerations. Whether or not we choose to accept the contents of these Gospels, they encourage us to reflect critically on the nature of religious authority and the complex history of the Christian faith. The phrase, false and lying gods, doesn't appear in the Bible or the Quran, but it's famously used by Dante Alighieri, a 14th century poet. Another term, raging hunger, is found in both Dante's works and the Gospel of Barnabas. The latter borrows heavily from Dante's Divine Comedy, including the idea that hell has 7 levels, each with distinct tortures for sinners. It's implausible to think Barnabas foresaw Dante's work centuries before it was written. Instead, experts now believe the age of the Barnabas text was likely misdated, having been written around the year 1500 rather than 1500 years ago. This gospel, along with other non-canonical texts like the Gospel of Thomas, faced heavy criticism and rejection by early Christian scholars. Unlike Barnabas, the Gospel of Thomas doesn't face issues with dating, but it has its own controversies. It lacks biographical details about Jesus, and its content was considered heretical by many early Christian theologians. For example, Origen of Alexandria and Eusebius of Caesarea, both influential scholars, rejected the Gospel of Thomas. Theologians like Cyril of Jerusalem urged believers to avoid it altogether. It seems like the backlash against the text may have had the unintended effect of increasing curiosity about it, almost as if it was a deliberate PR campaign to boost interest. When Christianity was gaining momentum, most of the world was still pagan. The Gospel of Thomas seems to align with pagan stories, potentially designed to appeal to a broader audience. It even suggests that Thomas was Jesus' twin brother, born of another woman. This could be inspired by ancient Greek myths, such as the story of Hercules and his mortal twin brother, Iphicles. Perhaps the Gospel of Thomas twisted Christian theology to make it more palatable to pagans, thus drawing more people toward the new faith. As Christianity became mainstream, such adaptations were no longer necessary, and the text was eventually suppressed. Even if this theory holds, the Bible still contains contradictions that suggest imperfect editing. For instance, in the Old Testament creation story, humanity is created on the 6th day, both male and female. Yet, in the following chapter, Adam is created first, and Eve comes from his rib later. These inconsistencies continue throughout biblical texts, such as the tale of David and Goliath in the first book of Samuel, where David kills Goliath without a sword, only for the next sentence to state that David took Goliath's sword and decapitated him. The discrepancies extend to the Gospels, where different authors recount Christ's last words on the cross differently. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus cries out, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" In contrast, Luke records his final words as, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Meanwhile, John's Gospel simply states, "It is finished." These variations could be seen as efforts by the Gospel writers to depict Christ in a more serene or resolute manner during his crucifixion. Even simple calculations in the Bible can raise eyebrows. In the Gospel of John, Nicodemus brings 100 litras, about 35 kilograms, of myrrh and aloes to anoint Jesus' body. Given that these substances were potent and only a small amount was needed, the sheer quantity seems excessive. This suggests the possibility of rushed edits to the text without proper attention to detail. The Bible we know today may just be a small fragment of early Christian writings. Within the Vatican's secret apostolic archive, closed to all but a select few, are thousands of volumes of texts that could offer deeper insights into Christianity's early days. The archive is notoriously difficult to access, with stringent requirements that limit entry to scholars who meet rigorous criteria, including age and academic credentials. Even those granted permission face further hurdles, such as security checkpoints and limited access to materials. All these layers of secrecy surrounding Christian texts suggest that the Bible we have today might not be as complete or consistent as we're led to believe. Many inconsistencies remain, despite centuries of revisions and careful curation. The Vatican has long been a source of intrigue and speculation, particularly due to the extreme secrecy surrounding certain aspects of the Catholic Church. One of the most mysterious places within the Vatican is the Secret Archive, a collection of ancient documents and artifacts that few have had access to. Over the years, various theories have emerged regarding what is hidden within these walls and why the Vatican is so protective of it. While much of the archive's contents remain shrouded in mystery, some rumors have made their way into the public domain, raising questions about the Church's true motives. One theory suggests that the Vatican officials fear a divine curse that could befall anyone who disturbs the contents of the archive. This idea gained traction in 1939 when 9 human bone fragments were discovered beneath St. Peter's Basilica, the heart of Vatican City. Initially, experts believed these bones belonged to one of the builders of the basilica, trapped under a stone slab. However, further examination revealed that the remains were nearly 2,000 years old, leading experts to conclude that they likely belonged to St. Peter himself. According to biblical lore, disturbing the remains of St. Peter comes with a dire consequence, a curse that causes the skin to peel from the body of anyone who violates his resting place. This terrifying warning has been passed down through generations, and some speculate that the Church's obsession with keeping certain relics hidden is driven by a fear of unleashing divine retribution. If this curse is real, then perhaps the Vatican's secrecy is not meant to withhold knowledge from the public, but rather to protect humanity from a potentially devastating fate. Alternatively, there is a more cynical theory that the Vatican's real aim is to prevent ordinary people from discovering the truth, which may be far less supernatural and far more political. Among the various documents said to be stored in the secret archive is a collection of letters exchanged between St. Peter and the Roman Emperor Nero. Although historians have not been granted access to read all of these letters, the few that have been studied contain shocking revelations, namely, that Jesus Christ may never have existed. This claim is, of course, highly controversial. After all, the entire foundation of Christianity rests upon the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. However, many historians acknowledge that there is very little direct historical evidence to support the existence of Jesus as a real person. Most of what we know about him comes from the Bible, a text that has been altered and edited over centuries by various authorities within the Church. These changes were often made to consolidate power and control, leading some to question whether the story of Jesus is more of a political construct than a historical fact. The idea that the Church might have deliberately concealed information challenging the existence of Jesus is a bold one, but not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Throughout history, there have been countless texts deemed apocryphal by church leaders, writings that were excluded from the official canon of the Bible. If these dismissed scriptures contain details that contradicted the mainstream narrative of Jesus' life, it would explain why the surviving biblical accounts are often inconsistent or chaotic. The Church may have tailored the accepted story to fit its own agenda, discarding anything that didn't align with the image of Jesus they wanted to present. Whether or not one believes in the accuracy of the Bible is a personal matter, but it's undeniable that the Vatican has taken steps that have eroded public trust in its transparency. This leads to further speculation about what else might be hidden within the secret archive. In addition to ancient documents, there are rumors that the archive contains some rather exotic items, one of the most intriguing being a machine known as the chronovisor. The chronovisor was reportedly invented by Father Pellegrino Alfredo Maria Ernetti, an Italian monk who claimed that the machine could allow people to view both the past and the future. According to Ernetti, the chronovisor could show scenes from history as though one were watching them unfold in real time. While this concept sounds outlandish and far-fetched, the Vatican allegedly took immediate action to confiscate the device and secure it within the secret archive. This reaction has only fueled conspiracy theories that the Church is hiding knowledge about time travel or the ability to witness historical events, including the life of Jesus Christ. If the chronovisor truly exists, it opens up a whole new set of questions about the Church's motivation for keeping it hidden. Was the Vatican concerned that people might use the machine to uncover the truth about Jesus Christ's life, or perhaps his non-existence? Could it be that the chronovisor reveals a version of history that would discredit the Church's teachings and diminish its authority? Or is the Church simply safeguarding a dangerous piece of technology that could have unforeseen consequences if used recklessly? Some believe that the secrecy surrounding the chronovisor is connected to the contents of the letters between St. Peter and Emperor Nero. If these letters suggest that Jesus Christ never existed, then the chronovisor could potentially verify this claim by showing a version of history without Jesus. In such a scenario, the Vatican's primary concern would be maintaining control over the narrative that has sustained its power for centuries. By keeping both the letters and the chronovisor out of public reach, the Church ensures that its version of history remains unchallenged. Others take the conspiracy further, speculating that the Vatican is governed by a shadowy group like the Illuminati, an organization believed to manipulate global events from behind the scenes. According to this theory, the secret archive contains not just religious documents, but evidence of this group's influence over world affairs. The Church's role, then, would be to serve as a front for a much larger network of control, using religion as a tool to keep people in line. Ultimately, the truth about what lies within the Vatican's secret archive remains elusive, and the Church's refusal to grant full access only intensifies speculation. Whether driven by a desire to protect humanity from divine punishment or a need to preserve its own power, the Vatican's secrecy has fueled countless theories and raised important questions about the relationship between faith, history, and authority. Would you dare to peek into the past of the Christian Church, knowing it could potentially upend everything you've learned from the Bible? The answer may depend on whether you view the Vatican's actions as a necessary measure to safeguard sacred truths, or as an attempt to keep us from discovering that the foundations of Christianity may not be as solid as we've been led to believe.
Police in Turkey have recovered a Bible thought to be 1,000 years old. The holy book, which was found in the central Turkish city of Tokat.
Israeli archaeologists working to prevent caves in the area from being looted filmed the moment of their discovery. They'd found ancient verses from the books of the prophets Zechariah and Nahum in the Hebrew Bible.
Imagine stumbling upon an ancient book, a time capsule of stories from the past. But this isn't just any book. It's a newly discovered Bible that's sparking debates across the globe, from Christian believers to atheists alike. Hidden within its pages are shocking secrets and chilling tales that have the world buzzing. What exactly is written in these ancient texts? And why should it matter to everyone, no matter your beliefs? Let's dive in and uncover the mind-blowing mysteries buried within this legendary find. We are Jesus' Eternal Aura. In today's video, you will have appropriate answers to all the questions above. Before you know what happened, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click the bell icon for all the latest updates.
Cuneiform tablets, ancient Mesopotamian clay tablets, clay bullae, and seal impressions. This is just a fraction of the artifacts that were stolen from archaeological sites in Iraq and smuggled into the United States.
The discovery of the ancient Book of St. Barnabas has captivated both scholars and believers worldwide, offering a new perspective on the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. Christians have long been immersed in the narratives of the Bible, with its two major sections, the Old and New Testaments, forming the foundation of their faith. These scriptures recount the story of Jesus, his teachings, and his crucifixion, serving as evidence of his earthly existence. Despite some minor variations in the details across the Bible's books and authors, the overarching message remains consistent, confirming Jesus' presence in history. However, the recent unearthing of a 2,000-year-old text challenges some of Christianity's core beliefs, particularly the widely accepted story of Jesus' crucifixion. This remarkable discovery is not a Bible in the conventional sense, but rather an ancient manuscript attributed to Saint Barnabas, a close associate of Apostle Paul. This text came to light during a foiled smuggling attempt by antiquities thieves, and alongside other treasures, this document was preserved. The book itself is made of animal hide, written in an ancient and highly challenging to replicate script. What makes this manuscript even more intriguing is the language in which it was written: Syriac, a dialect of Aramaic, which is believed to be the native language of Jesus. Estimated to be between 1,500 and 2,000 years old, this book has been valued at approximately $20 million. However, it is not just the age, value, or craftsmanship of the text that has piqued the interest of scholars and religious historians. It is the content of the Gospel of Barnabas that has drawn the most attention. The narrative within this Gospel offers a version of events that radically differs from the canonical Gospels of the New Testament, specifically in its account of Jesus' crucifixion and divine status. According to the Gospel of Barnabas, it was not Jesus who was crucified, but Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed him. In this version of the story, Jesus ascends to heaven while still alive, evading death on the cross entirely. This claim directly contradicts the New Testament's central account, which holds that Jesus was crucified, died, and was resurrected 3 days later. Furthermore, the Gospel of Barnabas presents Jesus not as the Son of God, a fundamental tenet of Christian belief, but as a prophet who was sent to deliver God's message. This perspective aligns more closely with Islamic teachings about Jesus, known in Islam as Isa, who is also considered a prophet and not divine. The book's most provocative accusation, however, is its portrayal of Apostle Paul as an impostor. Paul is one of the most significant figures in Christian history, credited with writing many of the letters in the New Testament and playing a pivotal role in spreading Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. For the Gospel of Barnabas to challenge Paul's legitimacy is a bold assertion that has raised many questions among scholars. This discovery has prompted a re-examination of the formation of the New Testament itself. Some researchers speculate that early church councils may have deliberately excluded the Gospel of Barnabas from the biblical canon due to its controversial nature. These councils, which decided which books would be included in the Bible, may have preferred more conventional and theologically aligned texts over those that presented radically different views. The exclusion of such texts may have shaped the theological framework of Christianity as it is known today. Adding to the mystery is the fact that Saint Barnabas is one of the few prominent figures in Christian history whose death is not recorded in the Bible. This omission has led some scholars to suggest that the Gospel of Barnabas may have been excluded from the canon precisely because it lacked this crucial detail, further complicating its acceptance by early Christian authorities. Despite this, the ancient manuscript continues to draw interest from both religious scholars and the Vatican itself, which has launched its own investigation into the text. For those who have studied the contents of the Gospel of Barnabas, many now believe that the book is genuine and not a forgery. The historical, linguistic, and cultural elements of the text have been thoroughly examined, and while some skepticism remains, there is growing consensus that the manuscript is an authentic piece of early Christian history. This discovery of the Gospel of Barnabas is not the only revelation that has stirred controversy within Christian circles. The Catholic Church, with its deep and complex history, has long held vast collections of ancient scriptures and documents, some of which remain inaccessible to the public. The Vatican's Apostolic Archive, which spans an astonishing 53 miles, is said to house tens of thousands of books chronicling historical events, many of which are shrouded in mystery. It is within these hidden records that some believe further insights into Christian history may lie, including possibly forgotten or suppressed texts that challenge traditional beliefs. The Bible, revered as one of the most sacred texts in history, has a long and complex history of its own. It is believed to have been written around 1000 BC by figures like Moses, and includes many of the most famous stories of the Christian faith. From the parable of the Good Samaritan to the miracle of feeding thousands with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, the Bible has shaped the spiritual lives of billions of people throughout history. Yet, despite its immense influence, the original version of the Bible contained more books than are found in today's editions. 14 texts from the original Bible remain undisclosed in contemporary versions, raising questions about what else may have been omitted or altered throughout history. This sense of mystery surrounding the Bible, along with the rediscovery of ancient texts like the Gospel of Barnabas, continues to fuel scholarly inquiry and public curiosity. Whether these texts provide new insights into the life of Jesus or offer alternate perspectives on religious history, they add complexity to the Christian narrative and invite believers and scholars alike to explore the deeper layers of their faith. In addition to these ancient scriptures, religious history is filled with stories of mysterious beings and spiritual phenomena. One such concept is that of demonic possession, the idea that a person's behavior may be controlled by an external spirit or demon. Accounts of demonic possession often involve symptoms such as memory loss, loss of self-control, and hearing voices. While such stories have been part of religious and cultural traditions for centuries, they continue to captivate the imagination today, appearing in various forms of media and popular culture. One particularly well-known figure in the realm of demonic entities is Valak, a demon whose presence has been featured in various films and stories. However, in contrast to its portrayal in popular culture, where it is often depicted as a nun, Valak is described in ancient texts such as the Lesser Key of Solomon as a powerful being capable of commanding serpents to do its bidding. This depiction of Valak adds another layer to the complex and often misunderstood narratives surrounding demonic possession and spiritual warfare. Ultimately, the discovery of the Book of St. Barnabas and the ongoing exploration of ancient religious texts highlight the richness and complexity of Christian history. These revelations invite both believers and scholars to delve deeper into the foundations of their faith, challenging long-held assumptions and offering new perspectives on the life of Jesus, the formation of the Bible, and the mysteries that continue to shape religious belief today.
The Epistle of Barnabas is a curious epistle that surprisingly has some messages that ring true with modern Christians.
The exploration of ancient texts, particularly those delving into the supernatural, captivates historians and scholars alike. Among these, a particular book stands out, weaving together spells, magical tricks, natural mysteries, and ancient wisdom, all of which center around the mysterious figure of Valak. This enigmatic being, though central to certain mythologies, is just one among many entities that populate ancient lore. Countless similar figures have either faded into obscurity or been deliberately concealed, leaving an air of mystery surrounding their origins. Many novels across time have explored these creatures, though much remains hidden within historical texts and volumes tucked away from public view. Speculation about secret documents stored within the Vatican only adds to the intrigue, suggesting that many untold secrets about these beings are unlikely to ever surface. Italy and Ireland, two nations steeped in religious tradition, are home to a growing number of religious experts, including Vatican and Anglican priests, who agree on one troubling phenomenon: the rise of demonic possession. Both religious and scientific professionals have raised concerns, though they also caution against the potential for spiritual abuse. Father Dino, a respected exorcist from Sicily, notes the ongoing debate within the Catholic Church about the legitimacy and understanding of exorcism practices. He stresses the importance of proper training for exorcists, acknowledging that even those well-versed in exorcisms can make mistakes. Across the water in Ireland, Father Collins has seen a growing demand from the public for guidance in dealing with perceived demonic forces, reflecting an increase in people seeking help for spiritual afflictions in recent years. Biblical references provide some historical context for exorcism practices, particularly through the accounts of Jesus casting out demons from the afflicted in the New Testament. Catholic priests have since developed a framework to categorize different forms of demonic possession. One such type is obsession, characterized by irrational behavior, obsessive thoughts, and self-harm tendencies. These symptoms often manifest in nightmares, tormenting the individuals they afflict. Another form, known as possession, takes control of the victim's body, forcing them to act against their morality and values. This form of possession is often viewed as a result of the individual's actions that may have opened the door to satanic influence, suggesting a level of responsibility on the victim's part in Catholic doctrine. Exploring these spiritual phenomena within religious contexts adds layers of complexity to the conversation, inviting questions about faith, the supernatural, and personal accountability. The Catholic Church distinguishes between possessions and infestations, where demons inhabit objects, animals, or even houses. Another lesser-known phenomenon is subjection, where individuals willingly surrender their free will and allow themselves to become vessels for demonic forces. While this concept is rare, it demonstrates the Church's belief in varying degrees of spiritual influence. Signs of possession can be both strange and alarming. Some victims exhibit superhuman strength, speak in languages they have never learned, or possess knowledge of obscure information previously unknown to them. These individuals may also display heretical beliefs, excessive rage, or engage in constant swearing. Catholic doctrine, however, urges caution, as such behaviors can sometimes be symptoms of mental health issues. The Church stresses the importance of differentiating between genuine possession and psychological conditions, warning against conflating the two. Exorcisms are viewed as remedies for possession, but are subject to strict guidelines within the Catholic Church. Only authorized priests, acting under the supervision of a bishop, are permitted to perform exorcisms, following a rigorous process. Despite these regulations, many people bypass the official channels, seeking help from unauthorized exorcists. This clandestine pursuit of spiritual relief adds another layer of intrigue to the world of exorcisms and the Church's role in addressing demonic activity. In addition to these spiritual mysteries, religious texts outside the canonical Bible, such as the Gospel of Thomas, offer a different perspective on early Christianity. Among the early Christian writings that did not make it into the New Testament, few have captured modern readers' imaginations as much as this Gospel. The Gospel of Thomas presents a radically distinct vision of Christianity, one that resonates deeply with independent spiritual seekers of the modern age, regardless of their religious affiliations. Rather than narrating the events of Jesus' life, the Gospel of Thomas comprises 114 sayings attributed to Jesus. While some of these sayings echo versions found in the New Testament books of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, most are unique to the Gospel of Thomas. Notably, saying number 17 also appears in 1 Corinthians 2:9, attributed to the Apostle Paul. This overlap provides a fascinating connection between the Gospel of Thomas and the New Testament, although the majority of its content is exclusive to this text. The name Thomas plays a significant role in understanding this Gospel's message. The name, which means twin in both Aramaic and Syriac, implies a profound spiritual connection between Thomas and Jesus. However, much like the New Testament Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas is not written by the apostle himself. Instead, Thomas is portrayed as Jesus' spiritual twin, symbolizing a deep spiritual resemblance achieved through the attainment of gnosis. This term, gnosis, refers to salvation through mystical knowledge and an experiential understanding of the true spiritual nature of reality. particularly the essence of the self. This concept of gnosis sets the Gospel of Thomas apart from other Christian writings. It presents the possibility that anyone can achieve a mystical likeness to Jesus. This idea is encapsulated in saying 108, where Jesus declares, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will become as I am. I too will become him, and the hidden things will be shown to him." Here, gnosis is not simply intellectual knowledge, but a deeper, spiritual awareness that transcends ordinary understanding. The text suggests that this form of knowledge cannot be fully communicated through words alone, but must be experienced. Jesus' responses to his disciples in the Gospel of Thomas often take the form of enigmatic sayings rather than straightforward instructions. When the disciples seek clear guidelines for salvation, Jesus rebukes their literal interpretations, encouraging them instead to embrace a more intuitive and subtle mode of understanding. This theme of transcending rigid critical thought echoes throughout the Gospel, urging readers to engage with the text on a spiritual level rather than a purely intellectual one. The Gospel of Thomas reflects early Christian concerns with Jesus' second coming and the imminent arrival of God's kingdom. However, its emphasis on individual spiritual transformation through gnosis offers a distinctly different approach to salvation, one that continues to captivate modern readers. By inviting individuals to seek a mystical understanding of reality, the Gospel of Thomas offers a spiritual journey that challenges conventional religious frameworks and encourages a deeper exploration of faith. The Nephilim, a mysterious and debated group mentioned briefly in the Bible, have captured the imagination of scholars and theologians alike. Many posit that these figures were the offspring of the sons of God and human women, an idea prominently outlined in the first book of Enoch, a non-canonical Jewish text. Enoch describes the Nephilim as giants of extraordinary size, linking them to supernatural origins and suggesting their existence was the result of a divine and human union. This association with divine beings raises complex theological questions about the possibility of angels or demons physically mating with humans. Some interpretations of the Nephilim emphasize their extraordinary stature and might, proposing that these figures were not just larger than life physically, but were also great warriors. Their supernatural lineage seems to explain their perceived enormity and strength. However, this perspective opens up further debate, particularly around the role of angels and demons in human affairs. An alternative viewpoint, less rooted in the supernatural, suggests that the Nephilim were simply sinful men. This interpretation is part of what is called the Scythian view, which was supported by early Christian figures like Saint Augustine and various Jewish scholars. According to this perspective, the Nephilim were descendants of Seth, Adam's righteous son, who later turned away from God. The daughters of mankind mentioned in these passages are understood to be the ungodly women descended from Cain, the wicked son of Adam. This interpretation avoids the notion of supernatural beings mating with humans, instead framing the Nephilim as ordinary people who had forsaken their divine heritage. The Nephilim's towering stature and reputation as great warriors have led to numerous interpretations about their place in ancient narratives, whether taken literally or metaphorically. The first book of Enoch, a significant text in this discussion, ventures beyond the Nephilim and delves into the apocalyptic with its parables of similitude. This section offers prophetic visions about the Son of Man and the Ancient of Days, concepts that align closely with later biblical prophecies, particularly those found in the book of Revelation. The book of Enoch also contains an astronomical book, which provides intricate details about the stars and their roles, as well as a fantastical visions section. These prophecies span the entirety of human history, navigating through events from the beginning of time to the end times and final judgment. Enoch's detailed descriptions of celestial events and their significance add an element of mystery and awe to the text, drawing parallels to the structure and themes found in the Book of Daniel, particularly in its week's prophecy section. Throughout the various parts of Enoch, there is a common theme of impending punishment for the wicked and blessings for the righteous. A surprising revelation occurs in the Noah sections of the book, where a previously untold story of Noah emerges. This narrative sheds light on the sorrows experienced by his father, Lamech, and his grandfather, Methuselah. It also reveals Noah's divine mission to save humanity. However, this story introduces an interesting inconsistency with the Bible. According to the Bible, Enoch ascended to heaven long before Noah was born, yet Enoch chapter 10 verses 1 to 3 mentions Noah in connection with a divine message. In this passage, the Most Holy One speaks to Lamech's son in the presence of the archangel Uriel, instructing him to deliver a crucial message to Noah about the impending flood. This raises an intriguing question. How could Enoch have known about Noah and the flood if he ascended to heaven before Noah's birth? This enigma deepens the mystery surrounding the Book of Enoch, as it appears to present knowledge and events not accounted for in the Bible. Another striking element of Enoch's narrative is its attribution of the earth's pollution to a demon named Azazel. In chapter 10, verses 8 to 9, it is alleged that Azazel, under demonic influence, imparted knowledge that led to widespread wickedness, defiling the earth. This accusation is notable because the Bible primarily mentions Lucifer, or Satan, as the source of sin, without delving into additional named demons. While the existence of other demons is possible, their identities remain largely undisclosed, and Satan is typically held responsible for the world's troubles. In contrast, the Book of Enoch introduces other fallen beings like Azazel, suggesting a broader demonic influence on the world. However, the Bible is clear in 1 John chapter 3 verse 8 that the devil is the originator of sin, and the purpose of the Son of God's manifestation is to dismantle the devil's influence. According to Christian doctrine, the devil's fate is sealed, as Matthew 25:41 describes a future where Satan and his angels will be cast into the eternal fire, prepared for their destruction. This biblical passage underscores the unrepentant nature of Satan and his angels, marking their inevitable doom. The Book of Enoch, however, presents an intriguing twist on this narrative. In chapter 13, lines 5 to 6, it suggests that the fallen angels experienced regret for their actions, a sharp contrast to the biblical view of their fate. This remorse is significant because, according to Christian theology, repentance is the key to salvation from hellfire. Yet the Bible consistently portrays Satan and his angels as unrepentant. Enoch's portrayal of fallen angels introduces the idea that, after their rebellion, they lost the ability to communicate with God, claiming an inability to lift their eyes to heaven. This concept contrasts with biblical passages like Job chapter 1, where Satan is depicted as engaging in direct communication with God in heaven. The differing depictions of heaven and the interaction between God and fallen beings add to the complexity of the Book of Enoch's narrative. The book's apocalyptic vision culminates in an image reminiscent of the heavenly city described in Revelation chapter 21, verse 21, where the streets are paved with gold that gleams with the purity of translucent glass. This awe-inspiring vision of heaven captures the imagination and serves as a powerful conclusion to the book's themes of judgment, salvation, and divine justice. The Book of Enoch offers a unique and multifaceted perspective on ancient prophecies, celestial beings, and human history. Its portrayal of the Nephilim, fallen angels, and the end times continues to intrigue readers, sparking theological debates that resonate with both biblical and extra-biblical traditions. Despite its non-canonical status, Enoch remains a valuable text for understanding ancient Jewish thought and its influence on later Christian eschatology.